Today's compilation is really going to shake your idea of reality. Right now, you're going to see strange phenomena, glitches as if in the Matrix itself, and moments that break all the familiar rules, and at the same time, they accidentally get caught on camera. This is not just weird videos from the internet. Many of them still haven't been clearly explained by anyone. Ready? Then enjoy watching. One tourist, obsessed with the mysteries of ancient Egypt, was walking across the Giza Plateau and filming literally every centimeter. And suddenly, on the side of the Great Sphinx, he noticed a hole that looked very much like an entrance. He couldn't get closer. The passage was blocked by a bright laser beam. A red line cut off the way inside, like in a futuristic movie about secret vaults. The man decided it was part of a modern security system. But the question that immediately comes up for everyone who has seen this footage sounds simple. What is inside there? Rare artifacts? A closed research zone? An ancient chamber that they prefer not to talk about to the general public? Especially strange is the fact that most people are hearing about such an entrance for the first time, even though the Sphinx is one of the most studied mysteries on the planet. In front of you is one of the most discussed TikTok videos. In the frame, a woman who simply throws a ball across the room. Nothing unusual, until the ball stops in midair right in front of her. It doesn't fall, it doesn't hit a wall. It's as if it runs into an invisible barrier, lifts slightly, and with enormous speed flies back, as if it was thrown back in response. In the video, it looks like there is an invisible creature standing in front of the woman that caught the ball and tossed it back. Skeptics are sure it's editing. But those who believe in the paranormal pay attention to two details. The ball's shadow on the wall moves naturally, without strange jumps. The woman's reaction is too lively and genuine for a cheap setup. Who to believe? It's up to you. But the clip really gets under your skin. In March 2025, it seemed to residents of Texas that someone turned on a giant screen right above their heads. At around 10 in the evening, people noticed a glowing square in the clouds. Its edges were lit with a soft orange light, as if someone carefully outlined a piece of the sky with a marker. The square was too even to look like a random cloud shape. It was seen in several cities at once, and everywhere it held for several hours, slowly dimming, but not turning into anything familiar. What was it? A rare atmospheric effect that we still don't know about? A projection? Or the outline of something enormous, hidden behind the clouds? Late at night in Spain, a man decided to take a walk and passed by a house that had long been surrounded by rumors. They say a woman once died there, and since then the apartment has been empty. Looking up, he saw a strange scene. From a high balcony hung a swing, and on it sat a figure that looked like a woman. From his point of view, her face seemed to be missing, just a dark silhouette. Frightened, the man took out his phone and started filming. He knew that this floor had been closed for several years. And then, both the swing and the figure disappear literally in a fraction of a second, as if someone turned off the image. The man screamed and ran away, not even finishing the video to the end. And you know what? Hardly anyone would blame him for that reaction. In Dubai last year, exactly at midnight, two fiery spheres appeared in the sky. At first, they tried to write them off as meteors or space debris, but the behavior of the objects made everything more complicated. Instead of falling down, leaving a tail behind them, they circled around each other, almost like two ships in a dance, and at the same time left faint trails of smoke. They hung in the sky for about 10 minutes and then simply went out, like lamps being switched off. Neither a meteor nor a satellite falls like that. And to this day, not one official version has explained what those fiery partners were, appearing exactly at the moment the year changed. In West Yorkshire, England, a man was driving home from a cafe and noticed a person on the roadside who looked as if he was stuck mid-step. One leg raised, the body slightly tilted forward, a pose that is incredibly hard to hold for a long time. But this person did not move at all. The driver even slowed down and kept filming. As the car drove past, the figure stayed in the same pose. Yes, you can say someone was on strong substances. But even in that state, the body would still sway, fall, or change posture. Here, the person looked exactly like someone had been put on pause. Imagine that you are looking outside for your daughter's little tricycle, thinking that someone simply took it away. A man went out into the yard, didn't see the toy, and decided it had been stolen. He went out to the street and saw it, riding by itself. The tricycle was moving along the road without a child, without an adult, without any visible push. The wheels were spinning, the pedals were turning, as if someone was pedaling. There was no wind, and the slope of the road was too slight to explain such movement. The man waited until the trike stopped, came up, picked it up, and then simply threw it away. After something like that, you don't want someone invisible riding your child's toy. Two friends decided to walk deeper into the forest, not far from their neighborhood. They expected just an adventure, but got a scene that sends chills down the spine. On one of the trees, they noticed a patch of bark that bulged outward and formed a human face. Eyes, nose, mouth, everything was recognizable far too clearly. The bark bulged as if the face was trying to break out of the trunk, but froze halfway. You can, of course, chalk it up to quirks of nature and imagination, but it doesn't get any easier from the realization that it still looks like a scream stuck inside a tree. In 2017, a man was driving through the Uinta Mountains in the state of Utah and noticed among the rocks a dark opening, inside which the features of a gigantic face could be made out. It looked as if an enormous head had stuck out of the mountain and was simply watching the passing cars. After he posted the footage online, specialists explained it with the same pareidolia, the brain's tendency to see familiar images in random shapes. And maybe that's exactly what it is. But it's not easy to get rid of the feeling that some ancient stone giant is sitting inside the rock, simply waiting for its time. Here's another reason not to like going outside at night. In Malaysia, a man took out the trash late in the evening and, turning across the road, noticed a figure standing on its knees. The creature rhythmically struck the ground with its palms, as if performing some strange ritual. Instead of turning around and leaving, which probably any of us would do, the man took out his phone and started filming. When he came closer, the figure lifted its head and stared pramo at him. He tried to slowly back away, but in the next second, this entity seemed to be instantly next to him, closing the distance almost without movement. After that, on the recording, the man doesn't talk, doesn't scream. He only quietly repeats that he didn't do anything and just wants to leave. After some time, the figure disappears. But after something like that, it's hard to calmly walk to the trash bin in the dark. Last year, residents of Chicago witnessed a spectacle that breaks logic. There were two moons in the sky. One familiar, larger and brighter. The second, paler, smaller and slightly to the side, but quite distinguishable. As if on purpose, around the same time, people from other cities in the USA began posting similar footage. Experts hurried to explain what was seen with optical effects, reflections, refraction of light, lack of clouds, filming peculiarities. But for many, such explanations sounded too convenient. Again, they said optical illusion, and the question is closed. Meanwhile, the videos kept gaining views, and people argued, did we really see a strange atmospheric effect? Or that evening, did they show something over America that we are not supposed to know about? This clip can easily be called one of the creepiest ever recorded by a doorbell camera. A resident of Jacksonville, Florida, woke up in the middle of the night from a notification. Motion detected at the door. Opening the recording, he saw a vague human figure on the porch, more like a pillar of smoke that had taken the shape of a person. The silhouette stood completely motionless for a while, and then began to change, spreading downward, crumbling, and in the end, completely disappearing. This definitely does not look like an insect on the lens, nor like an ordinary glare from headlights. If this is not editing, then explaining what was seen from the standpoint of familiar optics is extremely difficult. If a rainbow is supposed to be an arc, Then what do you call what residents of Salem, Massachusetts saw on July 28, 2024? A bright, absolutely straight band of light appeared in the sky, stretching almost from horizon to horizon. The colors, like a rainbow, red, orange, yellow, green, and so on down the list. But the line was strictly straight, without the familiar curve. There was no rain that day. No obvious conditions for a rainbow to appear. And the strangest thing, the band held in the sky for almost 3 hours. Someone tried to explain it as a rare type of atmospheric phenomenon, but most people simply asked one question: have you ever seen anything like this? Who would have thought that an ordinary playground at night could turn into a scene from a horror movie? In Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, a man decided to take a walk late in the evening and passed by a familiar park. And suddenly he noticed that 2 swings were actively swinging, as if someone was sitting on them. There was nobody around. The wind, almost zero. The trees stand completely motionless. And yet the swings were swinging quite strongly, as if someone had just pushed them. The only explanation that comes to mind in such a moment sounds simple. If it's not people and not wind, then it's someone else. The man quickly put his phone away and hurried home. The first video looks like a classic trick, until you realize there is no explanation for it. On an old, clearly not modern recording, you can see a man who is walking on water. More precisely, he isn't walking, but literally hovering, about 30 centimeters above the surface. He moves forward completely calmly, as if walking on a floor. No straps, no jetpacks, no suspension system. Someone in the comments writes, if he were held by cables, he wouldn't have such a relaxed posture. The body would behave completely differently. The clip looks too old to simply write it off as AI generation. No data about the place and time, only the footage. And him, confidently sliding above the water. Look, that shimmering thing. It's disappearing. What is that even? On February 16, 2026, residents of one neighborhood in Florida saw a bright blue ball of light that literally appeared out of nowhere. There was so much light that it lit up the whole block, like a flash from a huge spotlight. The object moved nervously and chaotically. It jerked sharply in different directions, changed trajectory, behaved in a way an ordinary drone simply cannot. After a few minutes, the ball began to blink, smoke poured out of it, and then it suddenly shot straight upward and disappeared into the night sky. So what was it? An unaccounted experiment? A new type of technology? Or something that we simply do not yet know how to describe at all? In the town of Millsboro, Delaware, a man looked out the window, and for a minute, simply couldn't believe his eyes. In the yard, around an ordinary manhole cover, dozens of cats lined up in a perfectly even circle. They walked along this circle for almost 2 hours, as if someone had put them on an endless loop. At first, the man decided it was a coincidence, but curiosity won. And the next morning, before dawn, he went out again to check the manhole. And he saw the same place. Only now the cats were not walking, but standing motionless, forming the very same circle. They stood like that for about 3 hours, and at one moment they all dispersed at the same time. What do you think could have attracted them like that? A smell? A sound? Something underground? Or something that simply does not fit into familiar logic? Imagine, an ordinary evening, 2 girlfriends are sitting, having dinner, laughing at some joke. One of them laughs, and in the middle of the laugh, freezes. The smile gets stuck on her face, mouth open, eyes empty, the gaze as if past the other girl. She turns into a living doll with a stretched grin. The second friend calls her by name. Hey, are you okay? Zero reaction. A couple of seconds. That's tolerable. But when 10, 15, 20 seconds pass, a real feeling of horror appears. And then the girl suddenly unsticks, as if someone pressed the continue button. She finishes the phrase, laughs, as if nothing happened. To this day, neither doctors nor acquaintances have given this a clear explanation. A mini seizure, a brain glitch, hypnosis, or another example of how time freezes around a particular person. Something very strange has been happening with animals lately. First, everyone discussed clips of birds frozen in the air, and then a clip from South Korea appeared. In it, a cat standing in the middle of the road, as if nailed to the spot. People gather around it, but it doesn't react at all. It doesn't look around, doesn't move, doesn't try to leave. Usually, a cat freezes when it is stalking prey. The body is taut, the gaze pinned to one point, every muscle ready to spring. But here around, nothing. And then a second cat comes up nearby. It looks at the first, and itself freezes in the same pose. Two living creatures, completely switched off, with no visible reason. Agree, this looks more like not animal behavior, but a glitch in some common program by which they live. Once late at night, a man was closing his warehouse. He was already about to turn off the lights and leave, but out of the corner of his eye, he noticed something strange in the air. Right in the middle of the room, literally out of nowhere, a shimmering spot appeared, perlevaющееся with all colors. It didn't hang like a flat glare. The shape constantly changed, sometimes stretching, sometimes compressing, as if the object was alive. The most convincing part, there was a clear shadow on the floor beneath it, meaning it's not a reflection, not a camera glare, not a play of light on glass. The man started recording. This glitch lasted about 20 minutes, an eternity for such a phenomenon, and then smoothly dissipated, as if it was simply turned off. It looks like the moment when someone lifts the texture of reality, lets us peek behind the scenes, and then neatly closes everything again. Sometimes it feels like our planet really needs a reboot. In October last year, dense clouds gathered over Paris. It would seem an ordinary picture. Now it will start raining. But something strange started. It rained in only one place. Right over a narrow section of road, a dense rain fell from the clouds. But everything else around, sidewalks, buildings, neighboring lanes of the road, remained absolutely dry. Passers-by began looking up in search of another reason. Maybe there's a pipe leaking somewhere above the road, maybe a helicopter, a plane. No, the water was clearly coming straight from the clouds. In the video you can see, the asphalt is wet only on a small rectangle. Everything else is perfectly dry. As if someone turned on the rain function in test mode, on one section of the city, to check whether the system works. Yeah, it's again. Do you see that? Wait a second. A parking lot is the kind of place where you can see anything. But something like this? Definitely not every day. A man had just come out of a store when a bright ball of light appeared in the air, right in front of him. It looked like a clump of electricity. The edges trembled, the form constantly shimmered and changed, like a living organism made of energy. In a moment, the ball dissolved. The person who filmed it posted it on Instagram, hoping to get a clear answer. And then something interesting began. People from other states started sending their videos. One such ball they filmed on a farm, another ended up on a doorbell camera recording, a third on a street camera. Different places, different cities, but the objects, as if from the same batch. This clip looks like someone pressed pause on the entire sky. In Portugal, people noticed an airplane in the sky that seemed completely motionless. It didn't fall, didn't turn, it simply hung in one spot. Onlookers stood and watched, asking themselves the same question. How is this possible? Airplanes don't fly like that. There is a scientific explanation, an effect called motion parallax. If an object is far away and you yourself are moving, sometimes it seems like it almost doesn't shift. But in this case, the airplane was too close, and the illusion should not have been that strong. What was it really? A tricky angle, a rare combination of wind and trajectory, or something that truly looked like a glitch in the rules of the world? On February 6th, 2025, exactly at 9:45 p.m., residents of Mumbai saw something in the sky that no local weather had prepared them for. During a thunderstorm, a bright glowing ring appeared over the city. It didn't stand in place. It quickly descended, as if something gigantic was entering the atmosphere. But before it could get close to the ground, it simply disappeared, leaving behind a dense, dark trail, similar to a trace from powerful engines. Meteorologists explained everything as a rare atmospheric effect. Conspiracy theory lovers claimed this could have been the work of an engine system of some craft. Versions on both sides sound logical, but there is no single answer to this day. A man from Ohio went out for groceries, but instead of an ordinary walk, he got something that makes your hair stand on end. Right in front of him in the air, at eye level, a bird froze. It hung in one point, not flapping its wings, not changing posture, not moving a millimeter. Yes, sometimes birds really can look motionless when they hold position in a strong headwind. They simply hang in the flow. But here, there was no wind at all. The trees stand motionless. The grass doesn't move. Nothing around suggests that any tangible flow is blowing. After a few seconds, the bird suddenly wakes up, makes a few wing beats, and flies away, as if nothing unusual happened. A small moment that does not fit into familiar laws at all. Residents of Saudi Arabia witnessed a spectacle that you can't call anything other than impossible. In January of this year at sunset, people saw two luminaries in the sky at once. One was brighter and larger, the second was a bit dimmer and smaller, but still clearly visible. People went outside, filmed, discussed, called neighbors. Look, do you see that too? When both luminaries went below the horizon, the footage spread across social media. Experts began explaining what was happening with a phenomenon called a sundog, when, because of ice crystals in the atmosphere, bright spots appear on the sides of the sun. But those who saw the clips with their own eyes noted, everything looked not like reflections, but exactly like two separate suns. In Arlington, Texas, a man filmed a video that looks like an optical trick, but the longer you watch it, the stranger it becomes. In the yard, there is a red car, but as soon as he shifts a little, so that the car is reflected in the glass of his porch, and in the reflection, the car is already white. And not only the color changes, the logo looks different, the license plate differs, the car's details do not match. The most logical explanation is that somewhere nearby there was another white car, and at the right angle, its reflection seemed to overlay the red one. But the author of the clip never said whether there was any white car nearby at all. But in fact, that's how it was. For some reason, the author didn't notice it, and for him, it was something mystical. Imagine, you're on a boat off the coast of Vancouver. Night, only the sound of water and the dark sky above your head. And suddenly, the sky lights up. Just above the horizon line, a bright horizontal band of light appears, as if someone turned on a gigantic lightsaber right under the clouds. It slowly moves across the sky, absolutely silently. No thunder, no explosions, nothing that resembles familiar flashes or lightning. After a few seconds, the light goes out, and everything returns to ordinary darkness. Such lights are usually explained as accidents on power lines, meteors entering the atmosphere, space debris falling, rare types of lightning. But in this case, none of the standard explanations matches the shape and behavior in the clip. What it was remained a mystery. The Romanian Hoia Baciu forest has already been nicknamed the Bermuda Triangle on land. Ghosts, strange voices, people disappearing. And recently, one more story was added to that list. One tourist stumbled upon a hole in the ground in the forest. Deep inside, a bright orange light is visible, and heat noticeably rises from within, like from an oven or molten metal. The traveler noted that it was exactly in this place that sensors recorded abnormal electromagnetic spikes. The combination of heat, light, and such readings made him think, what if this is exactly the source of all local anomalies? Viewers in the comments immediately dubbed this hole an entrance to the Underworld. But there was no continuation of the story. The tourist never posted new videos from this place. On July 29th, 2025, a man walked into a Catholic church and decided to linger inside a little. And that decision gave him an encounter he is unlikely to forget. In front of the altar, on its knees, stood a brightly glowing white figure. No face, no clothing details were visible. Just a human silhouette, entirely made of cyanide. The man decided that maybe he was imagining it and turned on recording to check himself. At that moment, the figure straightened up and turned toward him. The feeling was such that the words, "This is an angel," asked to be spoken. He stood a little longer, then quietly turned around and left. The being did not come closer, did not pursue, and did not try to give any signal. Over the last few years, snow in some US states has begun to cause people not just joy, but travoga. Many noticed that it looks and feels not like normal snow. People took a lump of snow, held a lighter to it, and saw a strange picture. The snow did not turn into water, but blackened like plastic and hardly dripped. Scientists explained, real snow, when melting, can absorb some of the water inside. Soot remains on the surface from the flame, so it turns black. Because of this, an illusion is created, but it burns and does not melt. But those who with their own hands tried to set fire to snow in the yard looked at these explanations with distrust. It smells like plastic, and it doesn't melt. The Great Pyramid of Giza has always been a magnet for theories and mysteries. But one short video took the discussion to a new level. A man was driving past the pyramid and noticed 3 bright white spheres above its vershina. They hung right above the pyramid, as if scanning something. From that angle, it was unclear whether they appeared from behind the pyramid or descended from above. 2 large spheres moved absolutely synchronously, as if controlled by one mind or working like a linked pair. The third stayed a bit to the side, but also did not fly far away. At some point, the man simply drove off, without waiting to see what would happen next. A man checked into a cheap hotel in Transylvania, returned to his room in the evening and decided to wash up before sleep. Turning on the faucet, he saw something that literally made him recoil. A gusty black liquid was flowing from the faucet, with a consistency resembling tar or used motor oil. Yes, water can darken because of iron or other impurities. But this was not just a slightly yellow or brown actinic. This was almost perfectly black, thick something. The man filmed everything and showed it to the administration. They responded quite calmly that this happens once or twice a day and usually passes quickly. But the guest decided not to check whether that was true and left, never finding out whether it was a system malfunction, old pipes, or something that should not appear in drinking water at all. Flagstaff, Arizona. 3 friends decided not to go to the New Year's fireworks and stayed home. The decision to spend the evening calmly turned into them, seeing something that, possibly, they were not supposed to see at all. When the whole neighborhood was at the celebration in the park, a train with bright blue containers passed along the railroad. Through the walls of the containers, lit from within, silhouettes of giant creatures of a strange shape could be seen. They did not look like people, nor like familiar animals. Some kind of elongated ones, with unclear protrusions, with unnatural bends. The friends could not believe it was just a play of light, and the scariest thought that comes to mind. If everyone had gone to watch the fireworks, nobody would have noticed this train. For residents of Medellin, Colombia, this day definitely stood out from the usual schedule. On February 5th, 2026, at about 1 in the afternoon, an unusual flying object appeared over the city. It had a strange star-like shape. Sharp rays spread from the center, like spikes. People looked up, trying to find at least some comparison. Is it a drone? A new satellite? Someone's toy? But the most disturbing thing, from the point of view of ordinary aviation, such a shape is not suitable for flight at all. It violates all ideas about aerodynamics and stability. Nevertheless, the object calmly hovered over the city for about 20 minutes, and then slowly flew away. In California, a man was returning home and saw a creature on the roadside that looked like a dog. But the longer he looked, the more unnatural the scene seemed. The animal had a strange posture, an elongated muzzle, movements that were jerky, broken. And the scariest thing, it made sounds that more resembled the jalabne meowing of a cat. A dog that meows. That alone is enough to put you on alert. When the man decided to come closer, the creature suddenly lunged, and rushed toward him. Luckily, he managed to jump back and run away. In the city of Warren, Ohio, a man decided to go out for a walk at night. He couldn't sleep, and very quickly he realized he wouldn't sleep for a long time. On the wall behind a park bench, he noticed a clear shadow of a sitting person, but the bench itself was empty. At first, he decided he simply didn't see well, and started filming on his phone to make sure it wasn't a play of imagination. On the recording, everything is absolutely clear. An empty bench, and behind it, the shadow of a person, sitting and slightly leaning forward. The realization that you are looking at a shadow without an object, to put it mildly, does not dispose you to a calm walk. The man turned around and quickly went back home. This clip is rewatched again and again, and it is still hard to understand what is happening. In the video, a piece of wood hanging in the air several meters above the ground. It doesn't just hang, it slowly moves, smoothly shifting forward, as if carried by an invisible potoque. No ropes are visible. The wind is weak, not stormy. Even if you imagine that the log got caught on some wires, its movement still looks too smooth and independent. It creates the impression that the wood itself broke the laws of gravity. A man named David Johnson was walking to work, and in the distance, noticed a woman. At first, everything seemed ordinary, until he realized that she was standing in a stepping pose, but not moving. One leg raised, hair in a ponytail frozen in the air, as if there had been wind at that moment, which suddenly disappeared. She did not move at all. David filmed her for a few seconds, not believing his eyes. Then the woman, as if on command, came into motion and walked on, as if nothing had happened. No explanations other than the joking, "someone's animation froze," were ever producible. Residents of Anchorage, Alaska, were stunned when they saw in the sky a plane with an advertising banner that seemed to be simply hanging in one place. Usually such planes fly slowly but steadily, so that the banner waves nicely. In this case, it seemed that the aircraft froze in the air, and the banner stretches behind it like an image in a game. However, here physics did find an explanation. With a strong headwind, a situation can occur when the plane's forward speed is almost equal to the wind's backward speed. From the ground then, it seems that the plane is hanging in place, although in reality, it is fighting the flow. So sometimes even the most frightening-looking footage turns out to be just a very vivid lesson in physics. Around this clip, even those who usually don't believe in mysticism at all still argue. Someone in Miami early in the morning filmed a dark figure in the clouds. The silhouette resembled a person in a cloak, an elongated body behind something like a fluttering cloak or cape. The figure seemed to be walking on the clouds, and then gradually dissolved. The author claims that he saw it with his own eyes, and that this is possibly a divine being that only a few are allowed to see. Viewers split. Some are sure it's editing or an optical illusion. Others believe the footage is real, and we saw something from another world. The phrase "everything's bigger in Texas" got new colors when a woman came out of a store and saw something under a car. Under the nearest vehicle lay a creature very similar to a cockroach, only monstrously large. By the shape of its antennae and legs, it really resembled an insect, simply enlarged to the size of a small dog. The woman kept repeating that cockroaches aren't that huge. Well, at least not on this planet. Fortunately, this monster lay on its back and did not move. But the realization that such sizes are even possible for a long time kills the desire to look under cars. On the road to Wadi Rum, not far from the ancient city of Petra in Jordan, a tourist noticed an unusual shape among the rocks. Between the stones stuck out a figure that strongly resembled a huge seated person, looking toward the road. A head, shoulders, even folds like knees. All of this scladivulus into one giant, as if petrified in time. Of course, geologists will say that it is a product of erosion and imagination. There is even a term, pareidolia, when the brain sees familiar faces and figures in random shapes. But the fact that this figure was so pohoja to a person made many viewers think, what if legends about giants, who lived thousands of years ago, are not that far from the truth? In January last year, a woman from Dallas heard a loud rustle in a tree in her backyard. Deciding it might be a raccoon or a bird, she went out into the yard with a flashlight and pointed the light at the crown. And then something happened that completely knocked her out of reality. The beam of the flashlight created the shadow of the tree. Not on the fence, not on the house, but pramo in the sky. Upward on the clouds or on something that looked like a shapeless gray background, a clear silhouette of branches appeared, as if the sky is not emptiness, but a solid surface. Agree, you can get a shadow only on a Twerdaya plane. And here's the strangest clip of the entire compilation today. The one after which you want to re-watch the world a little more attentively. In Puebla, Mexico, a bus passenger filmed a car flying in the air. The vehicle was not suspended on a crane, not hanging on wires. It hovered above the road, moving over a dense stream of cars. And it was not an isolated case. After the publication of this clip, other residents of Mexico began posting their videos. In them, cars flew through the air, overtaking traffic, as if using an invisible traça in the sky. Yes, you can predположить that these were drones with bodies shaped like cars, or some Hitri constructions. But in one of the most discussed clips you can see, the hovering car moves right above real traffic, with no visible cryptlenia and no platform. Agree. After something like this, it is already hard not to ask yourself the main question. And if our reality really sometimes glitches, how many more such bugs do we simply not notice? And if you want a continuation or something similar, then write about it in the comments, leave likes, and subscribe to the Top Facts channel for compilations of the most incredible facts and videos from all over the internet. Thank you for watching, and watch the previous incredible episodes.